I'm calling this soap Marshmallow Brownies because it should look like a brownie with white stripes going through it. I'm going to have to tell people that it's not edible. And I'm using Nurture Soap's Chocolate Indulgence Fragrance Oil. I've thought for a while about trying to use fragrance oils that are known to discolor to my advantage, and in this case, because the chocolate indulgence is said to make a very dark brown discoloration, that will be the chocolatey looking background for the color of the soap. It'll make it look like a brownie. And then I plan to use a stripe of white batter, which will have no fragrance oil in it, to give the white stripes in the brownies. I'm calling this swirl pattern a Senegal swirl because last summer I worked on a volunteer project with USAID in eastern Senegal with soap making, and there was a gentleman there who was going to swirl the soap and asked how to do it, and I said, well, just be artistic. And he had seen me do some drop swirls, but he modified it a little, and so this is what he did. He poured his soap, his alternating color back and forth, deep and then again shallow, and then something that I would not normally do with a drop swirl. I would usually make the swipes maybe an inch apart. He made them quite wide apart, so swiped maybe 2 or 3 inches apart going crossways, and then the same thing going lengthways. And then he finished with spirals. I don't remember if he used 2 or 3 rows. I usually end up using 3 rows. And that made quite an attractive swirl, so that's what I'm going to do with this soap. My oil's at 104 degrees. My lye water is at 119 degrees. So this should be a fairly slow moving soap, so I'm not worried about the lye water being that warm. This is not going to be a pattern that takes a lot of time anyway. As usual, I have my stick blender in warm water just to rinse it and make it not fall over. So that's a pretty good emulsion. Take out a little bit for the white. I have in here, maybe a teaspoon and a half of titanium dioxide and probably a tablespoon of water to make the white part of my batter whiter. I don't want to use very much of it. It's just going to be a kind of a minor stripe. So here's maybe a little over a cup of white batter. Then I'll put my fragrance oil in the remaining batter, which will hopefully discolor to a dark chocolatey brown. It smells really good. Very white batter for contrast. Batter's really thin. This is the 18-bar brambleberry mold with silicone liner. So I hope this is not too thin to start out here, but I'm going to pour lengthways stripes, starting out holding the pitcher rather high so that the white stripe goes deep into the soap. And then I'll do it again more shallowly. And then I'll finish by doing a layer right at the surface. So we have white stripes at all depths. And I'm not being terribly careful to put each layer right on top of the last one, but to some degree I'd like to do that. It is really sinking in. Just let that sit for a minute and harden a bit. See if this will float a little better now. Yeah, that'll work. That's the trick, to get the spout right down at the surface so it doesn't sink in. I'm hoping this white with the titanium dioxide will be opaque enough that it won't blend with the chocolatey brown. I'd like to have really clear white stripes on a truly dark brown background rather than a mixture. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so those are the stripes. Now let's make the swirls. I'm going to go probably 2 inches apart on these swirls. And then the same thing lengthways. Spirals. I'm not trying for perfectly circular spirals, rather I'm looking for areas that seem to be lacking a stripe and working some of the opposite color into those areas. Well, I think that's pretty just as it is. I'll just hope now that that background batter will turn really dark overnight. There is the finished swirled batter. Now I need to put in the dividers. And here it is with the bar dividers. So I'll put the wooden lid on that and let it sit overnight, and we'll have a look at it tomorrow. I just unmolded the soap after about 18 hours, and the tops are turning a nice chocolatey brown. The sides that have not been exposed to the air, though, have not yet discolored very much. So what I'm hoping will happen now, as they cure, is that everything will darken and become definitely chocolate looking. And I'm assuming that'll happen probably within a few days. I do like the differentiation of the white with the titanium dioxide and the brown from the fragrance oil. After another day, these are darkening very nicely. So here's the top side of some bars, and then the sides where they were touching the mold dividers. Those have darkened really nicely since yesterday. Here are the ends of some bars, also against mold dividers. And then this is the bottoms of 3 bars. This is the side that was facing the floor of the mold, also darkening very nicely. I'm assuming the kind of yellowish areas will still continue to darken to a true chocolatey brown. But I'm really happy with the way the color's turning out. Here's the top side again. So that's kind of in the color range I was hoping for a brownie. I've shaved away the rough top surfaces of these bars, and they look lighter underneath, but I'm assuming that will also darken over the next day or two now that those surfaces are exposed to the air. That's the color I would like to achieve, maybe even a bit darker to make it really look like a brownie. That one also has pretty good color already.